When you have a nightmare and you wake up, the nightmare goes away. Here, you wake up and you realize that the nightmare is still there every day. You have no relief from it.
Inside this farmhouse in Grand Ledge, one man was murdered, another admitted to the crime, and 2 families were left in ruins. But the biggest tragedy, say those still living the nightmare, is that it all could have been prevented.
Joseph is one of 9 children. He's right in the middle.
Joe Sadlak is Pam's son. He's 29, grew up outside Lansing, and he loves Michigan State.
He bled green and white. He grew up in Spartan Stadium.
But a little over 2 years ago, Joe was hurt. He tripped and suffered a closed head injury, and his family says he was never quite the same.
He became a little more agitated, more depressed.
After his head injury, he couldn't work, and he never was able to go back to work.
Joe lost his job, his health insurance, and his apartment. And he started abusing drugs, his family says, and spending time with bad influences.
Who is Clinton Decker to you?
He was a very bad person that hurt my son.
Nearly 20 years ago, Clinton Decker was convicted of a sex crime involving a child. At his home here off the Grand Ledge Highway, neighbors say police were called there often. And when Joe Sadlak hit hard times, Decker offered him a place to live. His family says they watched him get worse.
He thought about not harming anyone else, but harming himself.
His family tried to find a psychiatric hospital with an open bed. Eventually, on December 1st, Joe made his way here to Stonecrest Behavioral Hospital in Detroit. Joe's family says he'd never been on meds before, but once he was admitted to Stonecrest, he was put on a whole host.
One was an antipsychotic, an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety, and Ambien was the sleep medication.
Well, they were hopeful Stonecrest could help stabilize Joe. His mom, dad, and 2 sisters say they each called the hospital and warned staff to look out for Clinton Decker.
No circumstance should they allow Clinton to come and visit Joe or pick Joe up.
He's dangerous. Do not let my son go with him.
So imagine the family's surprise when they drove down to visit Joe, only to find out that after less than a week, he was out. Even worse, they say, was who picked him up.
And they said that Joe had just been released. He had gone with Clinton.
The 2 would return to Decker's home here in Grand Ledge on a Friday. 2 days later, Joe was in jail. The charge was homicide.
Honestly, I fell to my knees. Really, how stupid can you be? You're a psychiatric hospital. You put my son on 4 different kinds of medication and knew his drug history, and you let him go.
According to police, Joe was found on the side of the road covered in blood. He admitted to stabbing Clinton Decker to death. We don't know the circumstances surrounding Joe's discharge from Stonecrest. Hospital officials didn't respond to our questions. But when state psychiatrists evaluated him, they concluded Joe was mentally unfit to stand trial.
They're going to be out in next to no time.
Mark Reinstein is president of the Mental Health Association in Michigan. Short hospital stays like Joe's aren't unusual, he says, and they're almost never enough.
Most cases, you can't satisfactorily begin the road to recovery in 3 days, 5 days, 6 days.
Today, Joe Sadlak sits in the Eaton County Jail, where he spent the last 6 months. He's waiting for one of the state's few psychiatric beds to open up.
The system, every turn, failed him, failed us, and no one listened.
Though he's already been deemed mentally unfit to stand trial, state mental health professionals are still trying to return Joe Sadlak to competency. If they can, he will face that murder charge.
Have we heard to this point from the victim's family?
We tried to reach out to them. We went to their home in Grand Ledge. Someone answered the door and then closed it, but we'd love to talk to them. Obviously, we'd really like to talk to the hospital.
Yeah, because they got the warnings, right?
It seems as if they got several warnings, according to the family members, and yet this happened. They're limited in what they can say because of privacy rules, but at the same time, there are some very big questions here that need to be answered.
And I know you'll continue to dig for them. Ross, thank you.